let's get into what, I kind of wanted to bring you on for in the first place. So Shanahan and Lynch had a very interesting press conference about a week ago now. I guess it was Monday or Tuesday. And pretty adamant, on there not being a QB competition. And it was with more vigor than I had ever seen before. Some of the language and some of the quotables that were mentioned, stuff like there is no rookie that can take the position away from Jimmy G, and things like that were being said. And, Shanahan obviously is putting up this, at least the message saying that Jimmy G is the starter and there is no QB competition, and kind of to the point where it seems like Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the week 1 starter. However, I've been reading your Twitter and knowing you as a person, I don't think you're buying this. So why don't you discuss and tell us a little bit about why you don't believe Shanahan, and maybe if you could go into Shanahan's mind, why you think he's putting on this front right now?
Okay, so let me spin this for a second. Let's say you didn't watch the press conference, right? And I think a lot of people are in this scenario, and they read the 2 quotes, and the 2 quotes were simply this: Jimmy is our best QB in the building right now. We will start training camp that way. The second one was, there is not an open competition right now in terms of getting equal reps with the same group. Jimmy is coming in as the 1 and Trey is coming in the 2, or as the 2. So you read those things and you're like, oh, done. Like that's it, right? But what if the quotes that everybody took were these 2, and you tell me if this changes your mind? The first one is, if someone ever looks like they give us a better chance to win, we will make that decision then. And then the second one was a question that said, how do you feel about no rookie ever winning a quarterback? Does that sway, or winning a Super Bowl, does that sway your decision? And his answer was this: that does not enter my mind at all. I'm just looking at our situation. Who gives you the best chance to win? I told Jimmy that if he's at the top of his game, no rookie can take his job. From what I have seen so far, he is getting there. It is early. That was OTAs. We will see how training camp goes, and we will deal with it accordingly. If those were the 2 quotes you read, how would you feel about everything?
That leaves room, right? It's basically, the statement is, as we see right now, the situation is a certain way, but we expect things to change, and there are things that we need to see before we make an official decision. That's kind of what I get from that.
Right. So that's just it. Everybody took these 2 quotes. They popped them up all over social media. Most people probably didn't actually watch the press conference. They didn't know the context. And the context was really Matt Mayoko pressing Shanahan. Okay, well, let me follow up. Does that mean that there is no competition? And he's like, well, listen, right now there's not. Jimmy's the 1. So the way that I see it is, he did not speak in absolutes. And we talked about this when it came to the MMA thing, but you've got to really pay attention to those words he chose. Right now, we'll see. As things come, we'll take care of them, right? So that really tells me. And then you look at it, and I don't know, if I've got a clear starting QB, I'm pretty sure he'd be taking more than 11 passes each day of training camp, 3 days through. That's all he's taking every day. And if I have a clear backup, he certainly isn't taking 10 passes to my starting quarterback's 11. So to me, I just think it's a very clear, open competition. And I saw what you said, and I think this was absolutely brilliant. I know you said it a while back, but I'm going to reiterate it. You said something along the lines, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was something along the lines of, from this point on, now that we know the 49ers have made the trade to 3, they're getting a quarterback, there will be not a bad thing said about Jimmy G, because they want to boost his value if that opportunity comes along. And if that rookie quarterback, whoever it is, wins the starting job, well, we want to know that it was going against the best Jimmy G. So there is no reason to say anything bad about Jimmy G right now.
Right.
It's all about boosting his trade value and boosting the confidence of either Jimmy G if he wins a starting job or Trey Lance if he wins a starting job, because if he beats out the best Jimmy G, well, then we have nothing to worry about. So
For sure. And I think a lot of the guys agree with you. Big drip Nick. Hey, that's a nice beard, man. I'm a little bit jealous, but of course there is a competition. We agree. Pinor is saying there is no battle. Lance is already the chosen one. The second dynasty is on its way, starting week 8 when Lance beats Fields. Quote me on that. Okay, Pinor, we're definitely gonna quote you on that. And yeah, I mean, I think it's very interesting. The two I guess versions of Shanahan's opinion on Jimmy, right? So it seems like everybody has forgotten about how Shanahan has spoken about Jimmy the last few years, right? Can you imagine a quarterback taking you to the Super Bowl and you still flirting with other quarterbacks that same offseason? Like, that's like you telling your girlfriend, this is my wife, this was the best year ever, but I'm still gonna go on a date with this chick. You know what I mean? It's like those two things just don't make sense.
Can I give you another one?
Please.
And this is what I said to somebody on Twitter. They're like, well, listen, I mean, he's clearly saying that Jimmy's the guy. Everybody knows Jimmy's the guy. And I responded, I said, listen, if my girl goes all over social media and tells every single one of you how much she loves me, are you going to believe that? Or are you going to believe it that every time she leaves out of town, she cheats on me? Which one are you going to go with? Are you going to go with what she says or what she does? Because I'm going to say that if she cheats on me every chance she gets, then she probably doesn't love me no matter how much she says it on social media. Right?
Absolutely. And it's kind of comical at this point because, you know, the 49ers were linked to every single quarterback that was available this offseason. And not just through the media, but also Shanahan talked about how disappointed he was that Matthew Stafford went to the Rams, right? And then in the same breath, he's so passionately talking about how there's not anybody that could, no rookie that could beat Jimmy G out on a playing field, and that the best Jimmy G is our starting quarterback, and so on and so forth. It just is completely just to elevate his value. But what's more interesting, I don't know if you've noticed this, and some people on Twitter have seen this, has said this. It seems like the memo has gotten out to the media because they're not showing. Remember, like, I think somebody in here said, Pinor said, Jimmy isn't a good practice player. And it's true. I remember last season, or maybe there was the season before, Jimmy threw like 5 interceptions in a practice. And we haven't seen any bad Jimmy throws. Nobody's talking about a bad Jimmy throw. Jimmy hasn't thrown any interceptions. But we have insiders that are telling us Jimmy has thrown interceptions. But it's not coming in the media. And it's like, this is interesting. The media has never had a problem with telling us everything that Jimmy does, good or bad, and a lot of bad, right? They usually tell us a lot of bad that comes out of Jimmy G practices. But this time it's quite interesting. There's no bad news about Jimmy Garoppolo. And it seems to me that there has been a very strict message. No bad Jimmy G news. Talk about his fieriness. Talk about the leadership. Talk about all this stuff that all of a sudden in week 4 of Jimmy Garoppolo, he's this newfound kind of person. People don't change like that, especially football players, especially starting quarterbacks don't all of a sudden become, you know, this new person. And to me, it's pretty blatant, Jesse. I don't know. I mean, I think you agree with me as well, but this is definitely a move to keep people believing that he could be a really good starting quarterback. And, you know, we hear about an injury with Carson Wentz with the Colts. You know, Houston doesn't really have a very good starter. You know, Denver's always looking for a starting quarterback now that Aaron Rodgers is no longer, you know, somebody that's available for Denver. Maybe they look at another quarterback that's been in the Super Bowl, which is Jimmy Garoppolo. You know, there's some people out there that might bite if they continue to keep everything positive coming out about Jimmy Garoppolo.
you know I love a good conspiracy theory. And the fact that not only are they doing that, not talking anything bad about Jimmy, but when they're showing Trey Lance highlights, they're not showing who threw the ball. They're just showing the ball landing perfectly where it needs to go. And
Right.
then they're telling you, all I know is that I heard that Trey Lance threw a jump ball up the sideline to George Kittle, which means that's a 50-50 ball. Yet when you see the actual video, of course it's cut up. You don't see who threw it. It's a dime with a
Right.
cornerback who had his back turned to the offense, and he just got flat out beat by a very good pass and a well-placed ball that was not thrown by Jimmy G. So, yes, absolutely. There's definitely something going on. It's smart. I mean, I agree with it. This is sheer genius. This is a great way to spin things. And, I'm sure that they would love for everybody to write amazing things and say amazing things about Jimmy G because it definitely does help the national spin. But, we got to be honest about what's going on. And what's going on is Jimmy ain't that good. And Jimmy still can't throw outside the numbers. And Splash Cousin said it yesterday. The very first thing Grant asked him on the show was, hey, so what are your thoughts on Jimmy? And he goes, yeah, so he threw an out pattern to the left about 10 yards downfield, cross from one hash to the other, and he skipped past it to him because he can't get the ball there. Same old Jimmy to me, man.
Yeah,
Same old Jimmy. So
absolutely. And I mean, we both, and we're going to talk about it going into this next topic, but Jimmy Garoppolo as a backup quarterback really doesn't do any favors to Jimmy, nor does it do any favors to the 49ers. And something that's really interesting to me, and maybe I don't follow training camp as much. This is the first year that I'm really following it more. I know you do a little bit more than me, Jesse, but Josh Rosen is getting a lot of publicity in my eyes. Seems like he's throwing a lot of balls, and I don't know if that's normal for the third string quarterback to get as many opportunities as he is, but it seems to me they're really trying to bring him along, and it means more. Maybe they're looking for him to maybe be the backup versus, the third string. I don't know if you have any opinions about that.
yeah, I mean, I definitely think that. I mean, listen, if the right trade offer comes to San Francisco, they will trade Jimmy in a heartbeat. Okay. And I think that they're afraid of just outright cutting him. I know that we would, hey, listen, cut him, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. Cut him, go after this player, do this, whatever. Like, it's easy for us to say,
Right.
but they have a locker room to manage, and they need to make sure that the rookie does beat out the quote unquote veteran starter who was supposed to be the day one guy, the one that the team rallies behind, and just make sure that that's a clear thing so that there is no hearts broken in the locker room. And it's a good spin to the media. And obviously, they're going to try to get something for Jimmy G. But yeah, man, they got to figure it out. Can Rosen be a backup? Can Sudfeld be a backup? I think the answer is no on that one. But yeah, they have to figure it out. Absolutely. And so, they've got to know what they have going into it. And I'll say this, I don't know what Rosen brings to the table, but I can pretty much guarantee you that Lance and Rosen is better than Jimmy and Mullins. And that's where I'll leave it.
I agree with you. And, I think that I was talking to Ben earlier this week, and he was talking about we were talking about, is this 49ers situation mishandled? And I said it's to be determined. I really agree with you as far as Jimmy's contract needs to be off of the books. But if they don't get any assets for him, I think that's a mismanaged situation just because, a year ago, you probably could have got a first rounder for him. So to go all the way from a first rounder down to, nothing, I think is a really, would be really bad news. And I think that's why the 49ers are holding on as well, is because that's a hard pill to swallow, that you aren't getting any assets for someone who definitely could have got you at least a first back in the day, and should be able to get more. And as we're just talking about, maybe likely destinations, Pino is bringing up, what do people think the Colts want to trade for an overrated, overpaid, injury-prone QB, or lose on purpose and get themselves a stud QB who is cheap? Now, let's take all of the kind of slanted language, but what would you take right now, or what do you think would be a reasonable offer that you would take for trading Jimmy Garoppolo?
You don't want my opinion because listen,
Let's say, what do you think the most you could get for him at this point?
Right now, as we speak right now, and I'm not saying that this can't go up, right?
Mhm.
But I just look at the landscape. I get Wentz just went down, but the Colts would really have to clear some space to make Jimmy G happen, right?
Right.
And we also don't know the extent of the injury as it sits right now. It may be a 1 week injury, it may be a 3 month injury. We don't know. So, with that being laid out, knowing that Watson's most likely going to get traded, so teams like the Broncos, the Washington football team, maybe the Eagles, Giants, they're looking at Watson as option number one. And then knowing that only three teams, the Jets, who have a rookie quarterback, the Jags, who have a rookie quarterback, and the Broncos, who we just mentioned would definitely want Watson, those are the only three teams that can outright, straight across, trade a pick and bring Jimmy back in return without having to mess anything up with their salary to make that work. So, with that being said, I would say a fourth is probably the best that they could get right now.
That's what
There you
Pinor
go.
said as well.
Pinor, my guy. Yeah, I would say a fourth is probably the best they can get right now.
Yeah, and maybe a conditional, something that could turn into something better if he plays and hits certain benchmarks and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you, and I think if they get an offer for anything, I'm pretty sure they take it. I think they're just waiting for an offer. I don't think they've gotten any offers, and if they get an offer, I think they just want any assets, any picks, fourth, or third, whatever they could get. I think they move on for it.